would like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to participate in this webinar, Credit Score Basics. Teaching people about credit and managing their financial lives is very important to me because at one point in my life, I was clueless about how credit worked and what factors affected my credit. This lack of knowledge resulted in low credit scores and negatively impacted my financial life in general. Although your credit score is not an indicator of whether you are a good or bad person, it continues to play a major part in our lives, from determining what we buy to how much we pay for things, as well as the type of employment opportunities that are available. I hope that during this time you will be enlightened as to the steps you can begin to take to improve your situation, as well as steps to avoid. Remember, it is never too late to improve your financial situation. Congratulations on taking the first steps to educate yourself. Before I begin with the presentation, I would like to share with you a link that tells you more about my credentials, tells you more about me. I won't spend a lot of time talking about my background and my education, but feel free to visit this link if you would like to learn more about me. Today we will discuss factors that affect your credit scores, how negative credit scores can affect a person, how to improve your credit scores. First, we will talk about a credit report. A credit report is compiled by one or more of the credit bureaus that gives a detailed credit history, credit inquiries, and facts about all accounts ever opened, along with credit lines. It also includes payments that were made on time as well as those that were late. There are three major credit reporting agencies that you may have heard of. One is Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. These are the three major credit reporting bureaus. However, it is important to note that some companies actually have their own scoring systems. The insurance industry has their own scoring systems for how they determine a person's credit worthiness, but it's important to recognize that many companies actually use these three, and they're three separate companies. Next, we will discuss what is a credit score. A credit score is different from a credit report. As we've already discussed, a credit report will outline your repayment history, a detailed account of your accounts, due dates, payment dates, and payment history. A credit score, however, is also referred to as your Fair Isaac Corporation score, and it measures your risk of repayment. FICO scores are the credit scores most lenders use to make lending decisions about you. The higher your score, the less risky you are in the eyes of a lender. Now, what are the consequences of having a lower credit score? So again, we've talked about what is a credit score, but unfortunately, there are some downsides to having a low credit score. For example, people with low credit scores pay more for items such as cars, homes, loans, or even car insurance. Low credit scores can limit employment opportunities. A true story, I actually had a university that ran a credit check on me to actually teach sociology courses. My position was not finance related in any type of way. However, in today's time, credit checks are not limited to people who are in financial positions. Now we will discuss how the credit score is calculated. 35% of your score is your payment history. This refers to paying your accounts on time while you earn a high score. Paying late or not at all, as in bankruptcy, will make your FICO score low. 30% of your score is the amount of money you owe. How much you owe on your credit accounts how many of your accounts actually have balances, and how much of any available credit you might have is being used. 15% is the length of time you have had a credit history. The longer you have had credit, the better your score will be. 10% is if you have recently opened new credit accounts, as well as the type of accounts. Too many credit applications that are too close together can lower your credit score. I'd like to take a moment to discuss what credit inquiries are, because this is what this is referring to. You may have heard of credit inquiries before, and there are two different types. There are hard inquiries and there are soft inquiries. Hard inquiries are those inquiries that can actually cause your credit score to drop a few points. This is when you allow someone or give someone permission or business permission to run your credit report because you would like to apply for a loan, whether it's for a car, a home, personal loan. Whereas the soft inquiry are inquiries such as you pulling your own credit report, a company that you've already doing business with, and they decide they want to look at your credit to see if they can provide you with additional offers and things like that. So again, you have your hard inquiries and your soft inquiries. Hard inquiries, again, will cause your credit score to drop a few points. Soft inquiries do not affect your credit score. Hard inquiries will stay on your credit report for 2 years. It's also important to note that if you are shopping for a home or a car or for something else, it's better if you're shopping for those things all within the same period of time versus having inquiries just spread out throughout the year on your credit reports, because at least if it's focused on just one period of time, then when people are looking at your credit report, they can understand the reasons why you were maybe shopping around versus just hard inquiries all throughout the year. So if you have to, it's best to try to do those things all around the same time. 10% of your FICO score is your account variety. FICO likes to see a wide variety of different types of accounts. Credit cards, a home loan, and personal loans can all add to your score. Now we will discuss the types of categories that are on your credit report. Your debt will fall into one of 3 categories on your report. Installment loans. These are fixed payments and terms, for example, cars. This is reflected as an I on your credit score. Revolving. High rates, no fixed payment or term, such as credit cards. This is reflected on your credit report as an R. Mortgages. Rates and terms vary based on credit and other factors. Now we will discuss how you're able to check your credit. You are entitled to 1 free credit report every 12 months from all 3 of the reporting agencies. You can visit www.annualcreditreport.com to order your credit reports. You do not have to sign up for trial offers in order to receive your reports. It is also very important to note that when you are reviewing your credit reports, to not just review one report, but you want to make sure at some point in time that you take a look at all 3 of your credit reports, because not all companies do not report to all 3 bureaus. You have some companies that will report to one, but not the other. And so it's very important that you take a look at all 3 of your credit reports to make sure that there are no errors and that your information is accurate. Some people use Credit Karma. I've used Credit Karma before. You can get a free credit score through them. Credit Karma will only provide you with your Experian and TransUnion scores. So it's important at some point in time that if you use this site, that you also get your Experian report and scores. And there are charges when you go to the actual sites, each of the individual credit bureau sites. Annualcreditreport.com will give you your free credit reports once a year, once every 12 months. However, you will have to pay for your credit scores. But it's important to know both. But starting out, you at least want to know what's on your credit reports. As I like to tell people, if you have poor credit, ignoring your reports will not help it. And you may find that there are some errors on there that could help your score. Next, I would like to talk about credit repair scams. There are a lot of scams that exist, so I'll try my best to talk about some that I've actually heard about. The first is using a credit profile number or a credit privacy number. This is a 9-digit number that resembles a Social Security number. Many times these are stolen Social Security numbers of children that are deceased. The next is using an employer identification number in order to obtain credit. These numbers are reserved for businesses to report financial information to the IRS and the Social Security Administration. If you use the CPN number or the EIN number in order to obtain credit, you could face fines or even prison time. I'd like to take a moment to also talk about, or reinforce, I should say, that it is extremely important if you run into a company that is offering these types of services that you turn the other way, because this is fraud. You could get in serious trouble as a result of doing this. Now, there are certain situations where if you've been a victim of identity theft, that you could talk with the Social Security Administration about receiving a new Social Security number. However, outside of the Social Security Administration, this is the only organization that will, let me rephrase that. Outside of the Social Security Administration, any company that's offering that they can offer you a new identity or new Social Security number is fraudulent, and again, you need to run from them, run as fast as you can. So it's very important to understand that. And also with the Social Security Administration, they will request certain information to prove that you've been a victim of identity theft. Also, if the company guarantees results, run. As I tell people, there is no guarantee in anything. Again, there are things that we can do that will improve our credit scores over time. There are some things that we can do legitimately that, and I'll talk about those in just a moment, that can help to increase your score, some quicker than others. However, as I tell my clients, there's no guarantee that by using people's services that you're going to automatically see results. Again, over time, if you put the good practices, into practice, or in other words, if you do those things that will influence your credit scores in a positive manner, you will see results. But those people who say, we guarantee this, we guarantee that, you have to run, because everybody's financial situation is different. And again, there are different factors that affect your credit scores over time. So now I'd like to share some tips for improving your credit scores. It is important to note that there are no shortcuts to improving your credit. Again, I'll say that again. There are no shortcuts to improving your credit. So a lot of times people will get involved with scams because they feel like, well, hey, this is somebody that's guaranteeing me results. I don't have to do any work, so why not pay somebody to do it? But the reality of it is there are no shortcuts when you're talking about improving your credit. So again, it takes developing a financial plan, which includes developing a budget as well as an emergency fund. These are key elements. I like to share with people that I always pay my bills, but where I fell short was that I never planned for an emergency. So any extra money that I had, I actually would just spend it. So when emergencies would come, I wouldn't have the money that I needed. So as a result, what would happen is I ended up in a downward spiral of going to payday lenders, getting involved with finance companies, and things like that. So again, all of these things will affect your credit scores, because if you are not able to pay your bills, a lot of times people will, or if you don't have the emergency money that you need when an emergency comes up, then what will happen is that you will find yourself maybe not paying a certain bill or taking that money to take care of that emergency. So again, your financial habits and your plans and your behaviors are married to how your credit is going to behave, or your credit scores are going to behave. So it takes an overall comprehensive plan. And I tell people, if this is something that you're not good at, don't be ashamed. These are things we all need help in some way, shape, or form, and your financial life is not or improving your financial life is not a destination, it's a process. I am learning things every day of my life to better manage my finances and my credit scores. So, excuse me, for example, so another important piece of improving your credit is understanding how credit works. So, for example, if you're using credit cards, it's important to note that you don't want to use any more than 30% of your available credit limit. So let's say, for example, if you have a credit card that has a $3,000 limit, 30% of that is $900, if my math is correct. So, again, if you start to go over your 30% as a rule of thumb, you will see your credit scores decrease. If not the next month, the month after that, if you have not paid that back down. And so, again, this plays into what's called your credit utilization rate. So even if you're making your payments on time and you're 40% over, 50% over, 80% over, you're using more than 80% of your available credit, it doesn't matter if you have thousands of dollars left on a credit card, it's still going to hurt your credit. So this is one of the, in my professional and personal experiences, this is the quickest way to either have your credit score drop or increase. I've seen client scores increase in a few months' time as a result of them paying the credit card down to 30%. So this is also very important if you're using credit cards. If you have a secured card, which is putting money on a credit card that belongs to you, so you can only charge what you put on there. So if you put $200 on there, that's all you can use. You still want to apply the 30% rule because it shows potential lenders that you know how to manage credit. And if you go to see what you qualify for a mortgage, one of the things they're going to tell you is if that utilization is higher than 30%, one of the things they're going to suggest is that you pay that down. So that is very, very, very important. Also looking at items that should not be on your credit report. So there may be items that in certain cases it's been 7 years. Let's say if you have some credit card charge-offs, those should fall off after 7 years from the date that they were first reported as delinquent. Again, by not looking at your credit reports, you may find that there are items on your report that should be removed. So it's very important that you look at all three of your reports to make sure you don't have those types of items on there, or if you have like duplicate items, if your account has been sold to a collection agency, that the original company is not still also reporting that same debt. Also, it's important that you know how to pay your accounts that are in collection. This is very important. So if you have accounts that are older and they are past your state statute of limitations, you have to be careful. And let me back up and talk about the statute of limitations. So there are rules for each state as to how long a creditor has to come after you. After a certain time, what happens is if you have that older debt on your account or on your credit report and you call and inquire about it, or even if you try to make payment arrangements, if you don't have request certain things in writing, like requesting that they don't re-verify your debt, which means they're going to start the late payments, reporting them all over again. And what could happen is you could give a company hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then they start reporting your debt as late all over again. So what you want to do is if you have an older debt, you do not want to give a company money over the telephone. Again, this is very important. You do not want to give a company money over the phone, because what can happen if you don't have anything in writing, number one, it can re-verify the debt all over. So you give them money, it starts to report your account as late because it's activating the account all over again every month, and then it's your word against theirs, and you have nothing in writing showing that you all made some type of payment arrangement. So what you want to do is before you give them any money over the phone, particularly if it's an older debt, you want to make sure that they verify that not only are they going to not re-verify the debt, but they're going to also report it to all of the bureaus once you've made your payment that it has been zeroed out or paid as agreed. So that is very, very, very important. Also, it's important for me to note that if you're dealing with a debt settlement company, it's important to understand how they work. With debt settlement companies, they will you give them a certain amount of money, but instead of paying your debt, they hold the amount until they have enough. They hold all of your payments until they have enough money to actually pay off the debt. Meantime, you're still being reported as late every month on your payments. So as I tell people, you just paid someone $800 to $1,000 or more to continue to be reported late when you could have done that on your own. You could have kept your money, and your bill could have continued to miss those payments. So it's important to understand, again, I am not encouraging people not to pay their bills, but it's important to know when you give your money to companies what's going to happen. In certain cases, if you're not careful, you can lose money and continue to hurt your credit. And here's a true story about a client of mine. Recently, she had a situation where we actually were trying to negotiate some payments. She wanted to make the payments to a company, and we called. However, they wanted her to give her checking account information over the phone. So I refused on her behalf. She had given me permission to talk on her behalf, and they just kept asking for it over and over again. So I declined, and I wrote the company a letter on her behalf requesting how she wanted to pay the debt, along with the due date in which she would make her payment, and also requesting that in that letter that they would also update their account, not only their accounts, but that they would contact each of the bureaus and report it as paid as agreed once the debt was taken care of. So a couple weeks later, they sent her a letter agreeing to everything that I had requested on her behalf, and they even gave her additional time to do it. So that's how you want to negotiate something. So not only will she be able to make the payments that she can afford, but she has a letter in writing stating that when she makes her last payment, they will show a zero balance, and the bureaus, the credit bureaus, the major three that we discussed, would be contacted, and her files would be updated to reflect that that account had a zero balance. And again, if you are comfortable with doing those kinds of things yourself, this is where someone like myself or someone who is knowledgeable would come in handy, and it's very helpful to help you navigate through that process, because, again, you don't want to do anything to hurt yourself. Also, you want to create a plan to maintain a good credit score. That includes creating that financial plan. That includes understanding how your credit card balances work, that 30% rule, and if for some reason you have an emergency where it sends you over that 30%, then you want to have a plan of action for how you're going to get that back down to 30% or under. And also, one of the strategies that I use is if something happens and I go over my 30%, in my mind, those cards are maxed out, and I'm actively working to get those balances back down, because I know personally how credit card debt can get away from you. And so you want to be mindful every time that you're using it. So all of these things go into creating a plan to maintain a good credit score. So this is also important, removing your name from promotional lists. So in compliance with the Fair Credit Reporting Act of 1996, the credit reporting industry has designated a single toll-free number that will allow consumers to opt out of promotional mailing lists. There are offers for credit cards and other goods and services sold by credit bureaus. Some of you may have received lots and lots of mail with different credit card options or offers, So this is what this is referring to. If you do not want to receive these types of offers, you can call 888-5-OPT-OUT and follow the voice prompt. Once the information is recorded, an email is sent to the three bureaus daily and posted to consumer files. The number is available 24 hours a day. So what's next? It's important, again, if you have not done so already, to order a copy of your credit report from annualcreditreport.com. Again, you are able to order all three of your credit reports once every 12 months for free. The site is backed by Congress. There is no trial period, so you do not have to put in any credit card numbers or debit card numbers or banking account numbers. You will not be charged for your free credit report. As I mentioned, the scores you do have to pay for. Now, unless, there are some sites or some credit card companies like Discover and Capital One that will give you a free TransUnion score. But again, you want to make sure that you understand what's going on with all three of your reports. But you can get some of your scores from free if you have a credit card with certain companies. Also, banks like the State Employees Credit Union will give you a quarterly credit score. As I tell people, that's only as good as the day that they reported it, because our credit scores change daily. So, but again, you can go to annualcreditreport.com and at least look at all three of your credit reports and check them for errors. Also, implement one or more of the strategies learned to improve your credit. And again, make sure you reach out to someone who is knowledgeable, such as myself or someone else, who can help you and educate you and coach you on how to avoid scams and how to address the credit issues that you have in a proper manner. Now I would like to share a free offer, or offer as a free gift for taking the time to attend this evening's webinar, a free session to the first person that emails me with free credit assessment in the subject line. This free assessment consists of discussing the steps you need to take to get your financial life on track. We can discuss your credit, your debt, money management, challenges, and we can talk about developing a plan, or I will offer in this assessment strategies on how you can get back on track with your credit and your finances. So feel free to email any questions to my email address at andreaj@anjconsultingservices.com. Feel free to call me at 336-476-4710. For more information on additional services that I offer, you can visit www.anjconsultingservices.com. You can follow me at ANJ Consulting Services on Twitter. You can follow ANJ Consulting Services on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at ANJ Consulting. I'm also on Facebook. I have a Facebook group page as well as a business page. They're both ANJ Consulting Services. And I always post information as it relates to business, finances, and scams. If you're not already on my email list and you would like to receive emails from me, a couple times a month I send out emails about upcoming events, upcoming webinars, scams, anything finance related as it relates to debt management, scholarships, credit, money management, all of those things that are related. So feel free to contact me with any questions. Thank you so much for your time, and again, feel free to contact me, and have a great day.